Are you looking for high-performance data storage that's easy to use yet secure enough for the Department of Defense? Look no further. Racktop Systems gives business software-defined data storage complete with embedded compliance, security, and data encryption. Don't let cyber threats, regulatory demands, or the complexity and growth of your data overwhelm your business. Racktop's high-performance data management platform gives you the tools you need to address the most demanding data challenges. Think beyond storage. To learn more, visit racktopsystems.com. The greatest threat to businesses today isn't the outsider trying to get in. It's the people you trust, the ones who already have the keys, your employees, your contractors, and privileged users. 60% of online attacks are carried out by insiders. To stop these insider threats, you need to see what users are doing before an incident occurs. Observe It combats insider threats by detecting risk activity, investigating in minutes, effectively responding, and stopping data lost. Give it a test drive at observeit.com/Security Weekly. IT Pro TV, binge-worthy learning for IT teams. Why is it binge-worthy? It's learning presented in an engaging and entertaining talk show format that beats voice-over PowerPoint snooze fests. Watch over 3,300 hours of content in their on-demand library, on your desktop, on the go, or in the comfort of your own living room. IT Pro TV is IT training you and your team actually want to watch, which means a better return on your learning investment. Get started with IT Pro TV for teams by visiting itpro.tv/Security Weekly and start a 7-day free trial and get 30% off standard or premium IT Pro TV memberships using the code SECWeekly30. Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly. I have with me Eyal Neemany from Javelin Networks to talk about how attackers are jumping between domains in your environment for fun and profit, as it were. And Eyal will talk about how that's accomplished and some ways to detect it. Eyal, welcome.
Hey, Paul. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. I love your T-shirt. It's awesome. Hacktive Directory. It's great. Yeah, it's a great term.
That's our message.
It's awesome. So feel free to jump right into it, Eyal, as this is an interesting topic. I know basically both offensive and defensive security professionals. So jump right into it.
All right. So let me share my screen, and we'll start with it. Here we go. All right, so today I will talk about how attackers can take advantage of domain trust in order to perform cross-domain attacks inside Active Directory environments. So this is basically how attackers will be able to move laterally inside your domains. So let's start. So first with the basics. So what is a domain trust? Just a quick explanation about how domain trust and how they work and why we need them. So first of all, the main goal of domain trust is to offer the ability for users from one domain to interact with resources and services and computers in another domain without having them to authenticate again with a different domain account from another domain. There are differences and multiple types between the domain trust. The main differences are that between each domain trust, there's a different type of link. So it can be a transitive link or a non-transitive link. So transitive means that both domains can access each other's services. And non-transitive means that only one of them can trust the other one, so only one gets to access the other domain. So why do we need domain trust? So usually the main reason there are domain trust is because companies are merging. So instead of having them to rebuild the entire domain, domain trust offers the ability to keep your current environment with a link to the new one. But in some cases, the IT staff just want to separate environments. For example, if they're using a production environment and a testing environment, so probably there are going to be multiple domains for each one. Another exceptional case is for security reason. It's called the red forest and the blue forest architecture. The main agenda of this architecture is creating an isolated environment for domains admins and another one for regular users. So by doing that, they are limiting the risk of getting privileged credential exposed in your domain. So whenever someone in the blue forest wants to use administrator privileges, they have to use credentials from the other domain, from the red forest. And By doing that, they're limiting the risk of being exposed. So domain forest trust, this is how it actually looks like in reality. So in this example, we have multiple domains, 3 domains. They are all in the same forest. The trust between domain A and domain B is transitive, as you can see on top. But the trust between domain B and domain C is non-transitive. So what it actually means that if domain A has a transitive trust to domain B, and domain C have a non-transitive trust to domain B, then domain C also trusts domain A. So there's like chain of links here, but the only thing that is different because of the non-transitive B to C link is that domain C is not allowed to access the resources of domain A or B. Type of trust. So I'll just try to explain my best with this because I know this information is a little bit complicated to understand on the first run. So the main types of trusts in Active Directory domains are the parent and child trust, which are always transitive. So whenever you have like creating a new domain inside under the parent main root forest domain, so probably it's going to be the parent and child. This is like the easiest way to add another sub-environment inside your topology of the domain. Another one is called the external trust. So it occurs when someone connecting a link with a domain outside of your forest trust. So if you want to connect a different domains from a different forest, that's probably going to be your type of trust. Another one is a cross-link. This is a link between a child domain and another child domain from the same parents. And the main purpose of this link is to create better performances for the child domain's communication. So instead of having them to going through their main root domain for authentication, this will boost the performance of the cross-domain authentication. Another one, important one, is the forest trust. So basically, you can create a link between the different forests. This is what happens when you create and connect a link between a different forest without any connection between them. So creating this new forest trust actually means that all of their domains in the forests are now connected as well. So again, just like what I mentioned and described in the last slide, so when you're creating a link, a transitive link, that means that everything you're creating and everything that trusts you also trusts the other domains that you trust. Also, I've mentioned here on the slide that the SID filtering feature. So I will discuss it later. Essentially, it's the feature that handles who can use additional privileges on the other domain. So it basically filters who can access what on the other domain and what privileges does count on another domains.
Eyal, I kind of like at a high level when I think about Active Directory domain trusts. Well, first in several years ago, right when I was working with Active Directory admins on this, it was generally like unless you really needed to create a trust between domains, like you just didn't do that. And I think the reason is you really increase your attack surface, right? Because you've got now not just one domain that you need to protect, but more than one, maybe two or maybe more, and then you have to manage the relationships as you presented in the previous slide between them, and that increases your complexity, but it increases your attack surface as well, right? Because potentially any security controls that you put or in one domain may not exist in the other or vice versa. And so is that kind of your assessment too, that basically in doing this, you're increasing your attack surface?
Exactly. And it's also worse than that. So we'll come to conclusion after all of my explanations that essentially if you're compromising one domain inside the whole link of trusted domains, you basically just own them all. So all of them will be compromised eventually.
Yeah, you're only as secure as like your least secure domain, in other words.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now, my question is why, and I think you cover this in certainly mergers and acquisitions. You would do this, but if it's your own infrastructure, what Active Directory admins have told me is that it's better to create different OUs, and there are some differences, of course, but you've got a level of flexibility in creating different OUs underneath your domain. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly. Actually, you have like many limitations once you're migrating your network. So sometimes you just can't do the migration and just create a new OUs. You just gotta connect the whole thing together.
I gotcha.
It also, it will be much more harder for the IT team connect to like rebuild the entire infrastructure inside this new OUs inside your domain net, the merged domain network. So that's probably why they're doing it.
Gotcha.
All right, so jumping from the attacker point of view, the route to compromise an external domain is pretty much straightforward. So after compromising the first initial domain, attackers can query the AD using simple AD enumeration commands and find out what the links are and the trust of their current domain. And also, this information is exposed by design, same as all the other AD enumeration types that you already know. So after looking up recursively in all of the domain trusts, you can basically, as an attacker, map the entire forest and the entire forest trust and figure out what your next step is going to be and what is your next domain or next forest as the target. So there are many opportunities for hopping from one domain to another, many options, and I will focus on the three of them, which are the main ones that we've seen on the field that attacker uses. So the first one, the first thing after attacker map the entire domain topology and the trust will be something that we call the cross-domain admin hunt. So what attackers will look for are accounts or groups that can be used in both of the domain. This is like the easiest way to get from one domain to another. So for example, if a user from domain A that has a membership in a privileged domain group in domain B, then he can just essentially easily interact with the other domain and gain privileges, high privileges on the other domain without any problem at all. So this is a feature that Microsoft does support. You can add members, you can add users as a membership in another group of another domain. So for example, the administrator group in domain B, they can hold a member as a domain A user. So this is something that in a lot of migrations, you'll see that people are doing, actually adding up user from another domains, just to speed this thing up. All right, so another option will be Kerberoasting, a cross-domain service account. So it is like the exact same case like Kerberoasting in a normal domain environment. Attackers can look up for service accounts, request their TGS, which is a service ticket. And because it's a service ticket of a service account, it actually contains the encrypted hash of the service account user. So you can request the same ticket with easy-to-crack encryption method, and it just can be Kerberoasted. Same case in like a normal domain environment. Another very interesting option is to find out what is the SID filtering configuration between each domain trust. And I'll also discuss about later what is actually the hidden SID and external SID and the SID filtering. But basically, once you figure out what's the SID configuration, then you can create a golden ticket between domains that contains the privileges of a foreign powerful privileged domain group. So if I'm a user from domain A, and I just, if I already compromised domain A, I just can essentially create a golden ticket that can control the domain B, for example. So if I'm in a child domain, I already compromised the root domain, even though I'm like contained in a signed domain. So the trust boundary, it just doesn't there. It doesn't exist. You can just bypass it easily using this method. If you guys don't remember, so golden ticket is essentially a TGT ticket, Kerberos ticket that contains all of the properties but instead of the actual domain controller manufacturing the golden ticket, then the attacker can edit all the properties of the golden ticket. So you have a pre-configured TGT with your own privileges, your own identity, your own group membership, and more. So after gaining one of these cross-domain admin credentials, attackers can perform lateral movement using these stolen credentials through the open link connection of the domain and essentially compromise the additional domains in this domain trust links. So we'll start with a live demo of one of the cases. So just a quick introduction. So right now I'm inside the AIG domain. I am already a domain admin inside this domain, so I already compromised this domain. And right now, what's my next move will be is to find out what other domains I'm linked into. So using PowerShell and the PowerView suite, first of all, let me show you that I am domain admin here. All right, so it's here. And I'll import PowerView suite. And right now what I want to do is to map the entire domain. All right. All right, so what this command does is to look up recursively in the entire domain trust links, what other domains can I reach to. So right now, my next target is going to be the McDonald's domain. So I'm from AIG domain, and I'm heading to McDonald's domain. And as you can see, I have a bidirectional trust direction. And it is a forced transitive. This is how it's called. It's like the external link that I have explained before. So McDonald's is going to be my target. So my next move will be looking up for any membership group in the other domain of users in my domain. So this is also kind of straightforward. Using the domain foreign group membership command, I'm actually looking up for any foreign security principles. And once I've found them, I can see that they are in a group called administrators in the other domain. So as you remember, I am from AIG domain, but the target domain is actually McDonald's. So I've been able to look up for any administrators in the other domain, but their sources are from my domain. So I'll just translate this SID. All right. The user is interadmin from my domain. So my next move will be launching Mimikatz, but just before that, I also want to look up for other domain controls in the other domain. So this also can be done easily. I'll clean the screen. And with a simple command, targeting McDonald's demo, I get a result of all the other domain controls from the another domain. So I'll just pick this one as my target. So my next move will be launching Mimikatz. So as you remember, already found out what a privileged foreign user I can reach to the McDonald's domain with. So my next move will be finding the hash of this user, so I'll be able to pass the hash with. So just as usual, I'll be launching Mimikatz for this matter. Already domain admin, so I can do whatever I want, basically. I will use the dcsyn command, and I will get the hash of the interadmin user. Voila. And I'm fetching the MTLM hash, so I'll be able to perform pass the hash attack with it. The screen. So let's debug. And let's do pass the hash. All right. So I just launched pass the hash with impersonation, meaning that my current process already has the stolen hash. Also, what I want to do is I'll just do it without the impersonation token, so I'll have like a new shell. All right. So let's try to interact with the domain control of the other domain, of the McDonald's domain. And using the dir command towards the MCDC3 of the other domain, and I have full access to it. So if I want to move further, so probably my next step will be maybe trying to fetch more domain information and more trusting links and more users that I can exploit and leverage in order to get to another domains. So just as an example, I can show you that using this hash, I can also right now fetch the KRB TGT account hash of the McDonald's domain and basically just own the entire forest. All right. So I'm doing the DC sync command, but this time towards McDonald's demo with my stolen hash. And this time I'm getting the KRB TGT user hash. And again, success. So right now I can do pass the hash with the KRB TGT of the McDonald's domain and basically create a golden ticket in McDonald's, and I just own the entire trust link and the domain forest. Even though I was I had a boundary of my domain in the first session. This boundary just doesn't exist. So basically, if you compromise one domain, you probably own the entire forest. And let's go back to the slide. Right. Okay, so SID filtering and extra SIDs. Another case is using the extra SIDs. This is a feature a little bit hard to understand, so I'll just try to make you stay focused on it. So because of migration capabilities, Microsoft embedded an attribute called SID history, which is also called extra SIDs for each domain account. So these attributes presents the SID of the domain accounts before the migration. So it will be still supported in the old domain. The value of this attribute cannot be edited normally. So if you try to edit with, let's say, ADSI or with the domain and Active Directory like GUI, you won't be able to do it. So it only edited during migration of the domain or patching of the domain controller using hacking tools like Mimikatz. So the domain controls validates this attribute, and they're trying to validate the SID of inside this attribute and making it act just like a normal SID in some cases. So let's say that I have a domain admin group membership inside my SID history. So it means basically that I am a domain admin when the domain controller will check me. So these features, of course, leveraged by attackers by modifying the value of this attribute and adding a foreign SID to a different domain in the same forest. So by doing that, they can gain privileges from a compromised child domain on a root domain. And the only filter that can deny this action is called SID filtering. So this is what I mentioned before. And if it's set to a minimal protection, then your trusted forests are also exposed. So SID enforcement is set according to the domain trust type. This is not something that you can control, but you just have to change your trust type if this security issue will occur. So this entire operation just happens behind the scene and you're not even aware of it. So as you can see in the picture, so for example, the user JWeek from the child domain contains the hidden SID of the enterprise domain group SID. So basically what it means is that it can access the root domain with no problem, even though it is in the boundary of the child domain. And this is what it actually means. So you compromise the domain, you compromise the ports. So maybe everything is not that bad. So there is one option that you can mitigate unprivileged cross-admin reconnaissance, and it's by using ACL. So attackers can limit recon from one domain or another only for some domain accounts, like the unprivileged ones. So as long as the adversary haven't compromised the domain entirely and gained domain admin's privileges, he won't be able to query data about the trusted domains. However, if you already possess a privileged account, then attackers can disable it or just bypass this limitation. Okay, so last slide. So Javelin AD Protect, of course, our solution is for this kind of attacks. It offers the ability to detect previous cross-domain attacks, analyze potential breaches, and basically detect AD vulnerabilities that can lead this kind of attack scenarios, and of course also prevent attacks in real time using the masking of your entire domain topology and domain trust. So attackers will not be able to perform a true reconnaissance without being detected. So the whole phases of the attack won't be possible. From the initial recon and credential theft, the attackers will be detected. So as far as I know, there is no other product in the market right now that's capable of handling these issues when it comes to a multi-domain environment. So right now, probably Javelin AD Protect is your way to go with it.
So that's awesome, Eyal. My question is, if, let's say I'm an attacker, and I think you covered this, but I just wanted to clarify. So I'm an attacker, I've compromised one domain, and let's say for some reason, I have trouble getting domain admin in that domain. Can I then use whatever lesser privileged accounts I've compromised in that domain to then go over to a trusted domain, get domain admin, and essentially have domain admin over both domains?
Yes, but you'll still be limited in how you can perform lateral movement. So when doing lateral movement, we're using unprivileged accounts, it's probably going to be harder. But it is possible in some cases. For example, if you're a normal domain user that might have some kind of access, a local access in services in the other domain, then maybe you can just leverage that and get inside the other domain somehow, and then maybe elevate your privileges. So it's just like just cat and mouse game between what you can limit and how you can limit your surface of being exposed.
Awesome. Eyal, thank you so much for our technical segment today. It was wonderful having you. And you can find out more at javelin-networks.com. Thanks so much.